Hello! This video series is going to be documenting me making my sister a Beetlejuice quilt, or a Beetlejuice theme quilt. I don't have any specific Beetlejuice pattern or anything like that. It's just going to be 4 different colors, like pretty simple. But I really like to do this for her because I think she needs a new bedspread and her room is Beetlejuice themed, so I think it would look really cool. And I've made one other quilt, which was a king size, along with my mother-in-law. So I have a little bit of experience, and I'd kind of like to try something a little bit more challenging. Hopefully it ends up not being too challenging, so I guess we'll see. But I have quite a lot more pieces to cut out than I did with my other one. And we're gonna have quite a few seams to line up, and there are some tips in my pattern that I'm really hoping work out. And you know, if all else fails, I'm thinking it's Beetlejuice, and Beetlejuice is kooky, so if it ends up being a little off, I don't think it'll be too bad. But yeah, that's pretty much just what I'm doing. I'm just documenting everything and just kind of doing it also as an informational video if I want to go back and watch it, just kind of see how I did it, and just for her to watch if she's interested, just to kind of see like the whole process. So that's about it. Enjoy. Okay, so first things first, this is the quilt that I am planning on making for my sister. I used a pattern that I got off of Etsy. I believe the pattern was called Field of Dreams. I did tweak this one slightly though. So I believe it is like these bits right here on these ends were originally solid squares like these purple and green ones. However, since this is a Beetlejuice quilt, I wanted them to kind of look like the sandworms. So I needed to kind of have one continuous thing. I didn't want the blocks to like break it up. So that's the reasoning for that. And then obviously the coloring is quite a bit different because I kind of had a different vision. I thought, okay, this is a good start, and then I can kind of tweak it just a little bit to give the illusion that I'm wanting. So yeah, this is pretty like straightforward, like Beetlejuice colors. The black and white, obviously, for the sandworm, and then the green and purple is kind of just good accent colors for Beetlejuice. They just kind of seem to go together. Also, her bedroom is in, well, exactly these colors, so it's going to match really well and look really cute. Still debating on what thread I would like to do to have it quilted in. I have to decide at the end to kind of think like what would look good. Really, I could do any of these colors. It might be kind of cool to have like a pop of extra green or purple or, you know, something like that. So we'll just have to see. So that is that. And then I also went ahead and made a page. I like to plan ahead, of course, which is very good when you're doing this sort of thing. My last quilt that I made, I kind of just winged it a little bit. We just kind of worked as we went. But luckily this time I have a pattern, so I already knew going into it exactly what I needed. So basically what we're going to start off with here is we got to make 30 blocks that look like each of these, but it's 15 for each one. You'll notice that they're not much different. Things are just kind of a little flip-flopped. So instead of, you know, green, purple, purple, green, we got purple, green, green, purple. This strip is exactly the same, and then these are flipped as well. So we got white, black, and then here we got black, white. So once we put them together, it'll end up doing like a continuous thing. We won't have like repeating colors or colors side by side or anything like that. So what we got for our measurements here, we'll have the 2 green squares, which I have these kind of like symbols just to show exactly like what is the same length, so you kind of have an idea. So 2 green and then 2 purple, the 5x5 squares here. And then we have our 6 white and 6 black strips. So 4 white, 2 here, and then the same with the black. We got our 4 black strips, which are these little tiny ones here. That are the 1.75 by 5. And then we got the 2 long black strips, which are the 1.75 by 16.5. So our borders here, basically. So that's that. And then I also did my fabric totals just to make sure. This was actually how I figured out what exactly I was going to need. So for the entire quilt, we're making 65 by 5s of the purple and green. I also wanted to have enough yardage for some pillowcases. If we don't end up having that, that's fine. It's not the end of the world. The white, we're just doing, you know, the little strips there, so we don't need much for that. And the black we need the most of because it's going to be part of our sandworm here, but then also basically we're using all the borders for that as well. And then speaking of borders, our outside border is going to be 6 inches without seam, or yes, well, 6 inches with seam allowance, I'm sorry. But it's 6.25 with seam allowance. So I'm hoping that the fabric that I got will work for that. Before I show you the fabric though, I am going to show you how I figured up all the totals for those. I recommend getting like a notebook or something like that to write down, you know, just different notes and everything. Just kind of have a scratch paper always handy. So this is the example formula here that I found online. If you don't know, like, some of these things, like this might not be the thing for you, but if you have a pattern and they don't list exactly like what yardage you need, this is helpful. This is what I used. So this is just an example here. So your width of your fabric in inches, this number changes a lot. The fabric that I ended up getting was about 44 or 45 inches in width. Your yard is always obviously 36 inches. So that won't change. A yard is always 36 inches, but your width will change. The width of your one piece, I already, again, from the pattern, knew what that was going to be, so that was helpful. Same thing with length, and then, yeah, the total number of pieces, of course, I already knew that as well because I had a pattern. So when you do your first formula here, this is, let's see here, you're going to want to make sure you round down because 2.08 pieces, I mean, that's basically you got 2 pieces. So you just want to make sure that you are taking that into account. Once you get to the end here, you know, you put all this stuff in. So this will equal your number of yards needed. And then this you want to round up. So this one ends up being 2.2 yards, but you want to round up because you just never know. You could go 2.5 yards if you want to, but for this example, they went ahead and rounded up to 3 yards. So like on my page here, I kind of just wrote down, you know, exactly what I knew I needed. I have my dimensions that I was working with, so I have all that here. My binding here at the bottom, I just know, I'm hoping anyway, that it'll be just like a multicolor one. I don't know how much I'm gonna need that because obviously at the end you kind of just need to measure everything and just, you know, see what that adds up to. So I ended up starting out with a 54 inches in my width because I wasn't really sure what I was going to need. So I just kind of was playing around with the formula. Once I actually found out that the store that I was going to go to had 45 inches for what I was looking for, then I could actually plug it into the formula. It didn't end up being that much different. I believe I only actually had to up the amount on one of mine. So that wasn't too bad. But that was that. So I can have this for future stuff if I need to jot anything else down. All right, so now we're going to look at the fabric that I got. So let's start out with our green fabric. That's going to be for our 5x5 squares. I'm not sure how it's showing up on camera. It seems a little light. This is very neon green, by the way. So that's that. And again, this is the fabric I'm hoping to also make pillowcases out of. This one and then the purple that I'm about to show. So here's our purple. It's showing up very blue on camera, but it is definitely purple. And then it kind of has these like black, like kind of some texture stuff to it. So I really like it. It's kind of more edgy, which is what I wanted with like the Beetlejuice thing. And then next we just have our standard black and white. I have a little bit of a different fabric for the white. I wanted to make sure that it was kind of thicker. I didn't want like a really kind of thin looking white. I just think it's better because I've worked with like thinner material that's white and it just, I don't know, it just wasn't quite right. So then just some black there, pretty standard. And then the last color I have here is this one. It's kind of black with a little bit of like texture to it. I'm hoping I have enough to do the border, the 6-inch border on the outside. So I thought that was kind of neat. Just something that's a little different, adds a little bit of pizzazz. It kind of reminds me of Delia sculptures a little bit, just kind of the modern look they have in their living room. So I thought that was kind of cool. So yeah, that's all of those. Not too much, but I didn't want to make it too complicated. Okay, so I got to looking at my fabric, and before we do any cutting, I'm actually going to go through and iron it out just a little bit, because there is some creases, and then on the end, you know, it gets a little bit wacky too with the creasing, and we just want to make sure we're doing good, accurate measurements. So I'm just going to heat up my little iron here. I am going to do, let's see, as hot as we can do it. Cotton can withstand very high temperatures. So I go ahead and just do the highest. Now I have a little steam iron here, but I don't use the steam part. I just have a spray bottle because that's just easier for me. It just kind of gets more of a consistent mist on there. And I like having my little tabletop one because the other one is just so large. Now, once you get to the end and you need to just iron all of your quilt or bigger pieces, definitely use a bigger iron and a bigger ironing board, which I do have those. But for right now, we're just gonna do it this way. I'm just waiting for that to heat up. The little light will go off when it does heat up. So let's see here. I think I'm actually going to switch this going the other way because we have a longer bit that we're going to do. You can smell it starting to really get hot. So let's put that down. Okay. Oh, okay. Looks like it is warmed up there. So we are going to go ahead and spray. That's a noisy one. All right, and then this should steam. Yep, there we go. Just make sure we got it. And then also you can kind of see sometimes when you're ironing, like just how uneven that was cut. No fault to anybody per se, but it's just, you know, it's noticeable. Let me see if I can get the camera up just a little. There we go, so you can kind of see what we got going on here. There we go. All right, that's good there. Okay, and then I'm basically just going to, let me see here, let me get this flipped around. There we go. So I'm basically just going to, you know, whatever part is coming up, I'm going to flip it. That first part that was coming was flipped the other way. So I'm just going to get it to where, like the part that's sticking up, we want that to be flatter. So I'm going to do that. Actually, there's a little lip right there I can get. I might need to get some more water. Go. I like to iron toward the open end. Oof. This ironing board's a little noisy. That's another thing, I just want to make sure I get really good measurements on all this. Now my king quilt, I actually did not do this, and I kind of regret it because it got really tricky at times. I would just say when in doubt, iron it before you even mess with it. It actually helps out quite a lot. So, all right, let me check the other side real quick. Yeah, we got a little bit there. Like if it's just like a little bit wrinkly, like that's fine. But I'm going ahead and doing it anyway. Why not? I got quite a bit of time to get all this done, so I'd rather just be safe than sorry. Okay. Let's see a little bit right there. Pretty good. I always usually kind of try to iron toward like an open end if I can. All right, make sure that little iron's not going to fall off the table. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And then there's a little bit going on here. after a while, I think I'm just gonna like speed through all this because I've pretty much said what I need to. All right, so yeah, I'm just gonna get the rest of this ironed up here. Okay, so I've got my next fabric here and I'm just gonna do the same thing. The last one wasn't too wrinkly, so it wasn't bad, but I just wanna make sure everything kind of has a nice fresh start. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this one, and then I will just go ahead and do all of them, but I'm probably just gonna kind of speed through all this.